Hello there! In this video I want to explore with you if I can build a proper gravel commuter bike out of an old steel mountain bike. And I want to try to keep the cost low, below 500 euros. What I mean by gravel commuter is some kind of bicycle that has been quite popular, I think, in recent years. The basis is a gravel bike, so a road bike with clearance for wider tires and of course drop bars, and then added to it for commuting fenders or mudguards, a rear rack, a kickstand and lights by a dynamo hub. So very convenient on the one hand and also fast and agile on the other hand. Here you can see the Panasonic MC-5500 I've shown in multiple videos before as some kind of teaser that I will build it up one day. I bought this bike last year in July for 50 euros in Munich. And as I'm starting to take it apart and add the parts here step by step, I want to explain you a bit more behind this idea. I always like to have comfortable and at the same time agile but also very well equipped bikes. And my theory I'm having over and over again is that these old mountain bikes from the 80s and early 90s built from steel, I personally also prefer the lugged versions, are great bikes as foundation for affordable yet very capable builds. Yeah, and with this video I want to prove I can build a gravel commuter just as the ones I've shown you in the beginning for roughly 500 euros. As a comparison, these bikes in the beginning are around 1,500 to 2,000 euros. But I mean, of course, we're talking about new bikes here with modern components and so on and so on. As I'm working here on the bike, you might be wondering, I'm not commenting everything this time, because I wanted to keep it rather short. I first edited this video and ended up with like 40 minutes of video in total, because I had so much to talk about while doing the build, all my considerations, also the challenges I encountered, and so on and so on. But in the end I felt like this video format is too long for bringing the message along or the general idea of trying to rebuild an old mountain bike as a gravel commuter. So what I ended up doing is having two videos. Here I'm showing you how I build up everything rather quickly and focus on the result and whether it was worth it. And I will upload a longer version later where I also in detail go through the build process for all of you who maybe also want to do this. One big consideration was, for example, to go 1x or stick to a 3x chainring. And in my opinion, 1x is not really worth it. For example, getting a narrow wide chainring, so I stuck to 3x. And here are all the parts I gathered. For example, a used tubeless rear rack. Tubeless are just the best rear racks, ask bicycle world travelers. And then a kickstand, the mudguards you just saw, and then here lots and lots of parts, like the lights over there, and of course a new chain, some cable or zip ties, these bar end shifters, and so on and so on. A detailed list with prices will be in the longer video. I also had to deal with challenges like straightening the derailleur hanger and of course redishing the rear wheel because I changed the free hub body to 8-speed to accommodate a larger cassette. Yeah, and then I reassembled the bike with all the components I bought. Bar end shifters here. The right side is 8-speed indexed. And the left side is friction or micro-indexed. Then I set up the build with some nice cool stop brake pads as always. I just like the Salmon brake pads so much. Installed the cables, messed around with the cantilever brakes as always. Got these inline cable adjusters for the U-brake in the rear. And of course worked in my basement, mostly at night. And after quite some hours the bike was finished. Some problems were caused directly by the shifter for the front. No matter how strongly I tighten it, it just can't hold the front derailleur up. I think these are constructed wrongfully and the ratcheting goes in the wrong direction. I can't explain otherwise. I wasn't able to invert the ratcheting, but I found some other solution. Stay tuned. This is what the bike looks like ready assembled. Here still with the faulty shifter, but later on it won't be there anymore. Let's go for a test ride. First impression, the tires roll very well. I pumped them up to like 2.5 to 3 bars and yeah, they roll very well. Maybe a bit harsh, like not the softest tires, but I didn't expect that from them as there are some cheaper Continental tires. But in the end, I'm happy with them. Also, the index shifter worked perfectly out of the box. I didn't even had to readjust the rear derailleur. Just shifts all of the 8 gears precisely and crisp. Underneath the handlebars you can see my solution for the front derailleur. That's an old Suntour 6-speed indexed or friction shifter for the right side on normal handlebars. It works great where it is. The only thing maybe is that it limits a bit my handlebar positions for my hands. You might be hearing that the front brake is screeching, but overall braking also works great, especially with the U-brake in the rear. I feel like it is stronger than having a cantilever in the rear. Standing on the bike also is no problem. Bottom bracket height is 30 centimeters, of course quite high because it's an old MTB, but I can normally stand. As far as I know, many of these modern gravel bikes have the bottom bracket quite a bit lower. In general, riding position is very nice. I'm like 190 centimeters tall and we will talk about the geometry of the bike later, but I don't feel too stretched out and also not cramped, so I think it's good. I feel like the riding position invites me to go fast. At the same time, the wide tires make me feel safe with all road bumps and so on. One thing that's not ideal is that you can't shift and also brake at the same time here, especially with my right hand, because I have a bar end shifter on this bike, and with drifters that would be easier and more comfortable probably. So lunch is also important, but after this we end the riding impressions and go over to the bike check. That's another day and in the park. So I found a nice spot in the sun and that's where I want to present the bike to you. So what we have here is my 1988 Panasonic MC-5500 in size 54 centimeters. I bought it for 50 euros in Munich. Its seat tube is 54 centimeters, so from the center of the bottom bracket to the top of the seat tube. The top tube is 57.5 centimeters center to center, and the stem is 10 centimeters. The tires are 55mm wide Continental contact urban tires that have good puncture protection and at the same time low rolling resistance. And I like my tires wide. The actual measured width is 53 millimeters, so still decent. The rear rack is a Tubus Cargo Classic. It's a steel rack I bought used, and I think these are the best racks you can get. The rear light is a Busch & Müller top light line. The rear derailleur is a Dior DX I once bought at the bicycle flea market with a larger pulley wheel. Looks nice if you ask me. Cassette is 8-speed 11 to 32. The shifter is a Sunrace SLR 96 8-speed indexed. Works great so far. Clicky, precise, good looking and affordable. In terms of crankset, I went with the original Dior 3x. Some more discussions in the longer video, but I don't have any problems with 3x, and I here also didn't see a big benefit in converting to 1x. And the rear brake is a U-brake with booster. Provides good modulation and stopping power. Back to the front we have the Shimano brake levers, the Zoom handlebar, and here my Busch & Müller brick light with 60 lux. This light is arguably very ugly, but at the same time it has a lot of features like also standing light and automatic light, and it also was affordable. The front cantilever brake is some entry-level Shimano model that came with the bike. The dynamo hub is a Shutter Precision, and I bought the dynamo wheel in Munich for 45 euros. The handlebars are 44 centimeters wide in the top area and 55 centimeters in the bottom area. The bar tape is some fairly standard just black cork, and on the handlebar you can also see my shifter solution for the front derailleur, an old 6-speed indexed Sandro Alpha 3000 shifter. Works great with the front derailleur. Only downside is limits a bit the grip possibilities on the handlebar. The frame is made from Tange MTB tubing, double butted. I have to say, this sticker is my favorite frame tubing sticker. I just like the colors so much, and they fit the yellow so well. In the sunlight I was even able to see that there's some glittering effect. The saddle is some Brooks Flyer I bought also used in Munich, and a Calloy cold forged seat post. The original seat post had a crack. Even though the saddle is a bit on the wider side for a drop bar bike, it's very comfortable. Here is the essential kickstand by Hebe or Hebe. No complaints so far, feels very solid and stable. With the front fender I'm using a Fahrer Latz as a mud flap to protect my shoes in the rain. And by the way, the fenders are SKS Blue Mills in 65mm width for 28-inch tires. I just used them anyways. And some cheapo white platform pedals that were not very expensive and don't spin well. That's it. That's my Panasonic MC-5500 as a gravel commuter. I just love these old lugged steel frames. That's why I made this build in a rather modern style and tried to unleash the whole potential of a frame like this. At this point you might be wondering whether I succeeded with my goal of not surpassing the 500 euros. Well, drums. No, unfortunately not. I ended up at 620 euros for the whole build, but I'm still very happy with that. For the 620 euros, I would say you get a very solid bike that rides well and has all the capabilities you need for everyday commuting. You can go quite fast on it, and at the same time the wide tires make it comfortable. And ultimately, the bike is completely unique. Some might say now, yeah, but why all of this? Why not just spend 2000 euros on a modern gravel commuter with, for example, hydraulic disc brakes or with drifters to shift more easily? Well, there's another point I want to make with this build. If you're on a budget, and I personally have been in multiple stages of my life, for example during my studies, you sometimes just can't afford this amount of money. But you might be creative and have energy and also might be willing to put some time into working on your bike, and then I want to show you it's possible. Put some work into the bike and some considerations, and you can get a nice gravel commuter for far less than the amount of a new one. As this night footage here just shows, I still have some open to-dos on this bike. For example, the front tire is so much visible as a big shadow in the front light area. So I have to get a longer lamp holder. And also I should remove the now unnecessary shifter cable from the left side of the handlebar, but this requires rewrapping. So in my longer video there will be a detailed overview of the costs I've had and also some alternatives which would actually make the build roughly 100 euros cheaper, so very close to the 500 euro mark. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and please let me know in the comments what you think about my gravel commuter build. Do you think that's even worthy a comparison to modern gravel commuter bikes one could buy off the shelf? Have you maybe yourself built a bike like this? And what do you think about the ugly light? And of course, in case of any questions about the build, also kindly let me know. Apart from that, please like and subscribe if you want to support my channel. And that's now really it. Thank you and bye bye.